around. Senator King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent that a response from the Congressional Research Service to a letter that Senator Sullivan and I sent to them be included in the record. The Research Service provided an exhaustive report to us in response to questions we had on how China invests in national security, examining the investments, the PRC, that most contribute to the country's power and influence. I want to thank the CRS team for their work on this. This is a very informative report. I hope it can appear in the committee's records.
Without objection.
Thank you. Director Haines, I want to talk about allocation of intelligence resources. Since we've been sitting here this morning, about 15 people have died in this country from drug overdoses, just in the last hour and a half. In about a week and a half, as many as were killed in September 11th. We're under attack, and yet we're not really responding. We're sort of numb to it, and particularly, we had testimony in a previous hearing that between 1% and 2% of the ISR resources globally under our control are involved in looking at the drug importation problem from south of our country. I think that's a gross misallocation of resources. If this were a terrorist attack killing 110,000 people a year, we would be turning this country upside down to counteract it. And to not be allocating the most basic, important intelligence resources of ISR in this fight, I think, is unconscionable. I hope that you will go back to the administration, particularly to the intelligence community, and say, this is a worldwide threat that is the most immediate threat to American lives. Can you make that commitment to me?
Yes, absolutely, Senator. I think you know that, and we've indicated this in other testimony, but the leaders of the intelligence community completely agree with you that this is absolutely critical, and we're each of us involved in a whole series of efforts to try to expand effectively our collection and our
I've been asking these questions for years, and everybody agrees, but I keep seeing 1 or 2%. So
insufficient.
I'm looking for action rather than simply expressions of concern. General Barry, do we have any information that you can share in open session about Chinese provision of munitions to the Russians in the Ukraine war? Because in my view, that would change the calculus if suddenly Russia had an infusion of ammunition and other munitions in order to counteract the actions of the Ukrainians.
Senator, we watch this very, very carefully, and publicly China has said that they would remain neutral in this conflict. We continue to watch them, and we can discuss it more in the closed session if that's okay.
Thank you. You mentioned in your testimony, and I noticed there's a little subtlety where you said this has been a bad year for Russia and Ukraine, but then I think in the next phrase you said, but Russia is very dangerous. What's the analysis of the likelihood of Putin using nuclear weapons? What would trigger it, and how likely is it?
Senator, there are a number of scenarios that we've thought through, and I'd be happy to discuss those in a closed session.
Well, I think in an open session, though, can you tell me that whether you think there is some likelihood or possibility of nuclear weapons being used?
I think, in the nature of conflict, there's always that possibility. Right now, I would say we think it's unlikely.
Unlikely is good. I'd rather hear not happen, but we can discuss this further in a closed session.
Can I?
Yes, go ahead,
also
please.
say, I think from the IC perspective, it's very unlikely is our current assessment.
Thank you. We can discuss that further in the closed session. Director Haines, yes or no question, would expiration of Section 702 be a major compromise of national security?
Yes.
And I think you've testified about how important it is, but I don't think it really comes across that this is one of the crown jewels of our intelligence capability, is it not?
Yes. As an example of this, 59% of every PDB, our President's Daily Brief articles, are sourced to 702 information. It gives you a sense of just how critical this is. It is utterly fundamental. I could not overstate, frankly, the value of it.
And I know you struggled with this in your opening statement, but the problem is the importance of it is hard to demonstrate to our membership without compromising classified material. And that's the dilemma. I think we have to accept your representation, which I understand you're talking for the entire intelligence community. This is an essential element of our ability to protect this country. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.